What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Thursday, March 28th. Fresh on our way to WrestleMania season. We're going to be talking a little Mania today because, as you know, it's Throwback Thursday. But first, we are going to break down Dynamite. I don't have the usual crew as expected. I do have one. And that's our head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. Good to have you as always. Big Throwback on the way. It's Mania season. Has there ever been a better time to be a wrestling fan?
It's always the best during Mania season. Yeah, like you said, I'm the OG of the Throwback with you. We're gonna cover Dynamite, the Throwback topic 25 years ago today. A WrestleMania took place in a familiar location, and also a year ago today, Clark, you and I met for the first time in person.
Is that true? Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, it's when I flew into California.
I did not know. As a non-math doer myself, Anthony, I can't say that I had that one clocked, but I am a stat guy, and I love a good stat. So I'm all for it. But before we get into the show, I do also, Shad, he's busy today. So who do I bring in? Dryzzy today. No, duh. Obviously. Dryzzy, ready for Throwback Thursday. How you been, man?
Good morning, afternoon, and evening. It's the guy you should believe in. Shad believed in me. That's why he tagged in his tag team partner. No, it ain't Tuesday, but we still putting them twos up.
Twos up on Thursday, no doubt about it. I'm with you. We got awesome comments over here as usual, too. We got Pierce Kiernan in the building. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Pierce. Good to have you always. David Modge throwing his twos up. Not only that, he said, this is Wrestling Republic. Shout out Chaos. It still plays. And the We Ready. We Ready. We ready. Oh, dude, that is a classic. We've also got King Peace Pierce. I don't know if that's also Pierce Kiernan throughout Ola and How We Doing, fellas, over on Instagram. Double comment shout out, even if that's not the same Pierce. Is it? Or I feel like, third time's the charm. We might get Adam Pierce next. Who knows?
Good friend of the show.
Good friend of the show, Adam Pierce, no doubt about it. Let's get into today's show, though. Let's talk about Dynamite from last night. Opening match, a big one. Will Ospreay versus Shibata. A dream match in some eyes. We're looking at two dudes that have really been legit over in New Japan. Coming over to American television, coming over to AEW. In wrestling, a lot of us know the history when it comes to Shibata's injuries. I really, truly enjoyed this match, and it was a slugfest. Although I will say, my good friend Ben Allison was a little bit nervous about some of the head strikes. Upon the rewatch, personally, I thought that the Oscutter was clean enough, and then the few strikes around the chin and head were safe enough that it was okay. But I also thought it was an outstanding wrestling match. And the double bow at the end was even more incredible. I mean, we talk about the Ring of Honor handshake. This meant the world to both of the competitors in this match. And I thought it was a cool open to the show, personally. Anthony, as our head of opinions, I gotta get your thoughts on it. Did you feel like it was too unsafe? Or did you feel like it was pushing it to the line, but just safe enough?
The thing with Shibata is, I was a big fan of his, and when his career ended, we all thought it was done. I mean, he almost died. And when we've seen over the years so many people have career-ending injuries, and all of a sudden getting a second chance. And that's Shibata in this situation. Any match he's in, knowing his history, makes you cringe a little and worry about him. I get that. Although he's in the ring with arguably probably one of the safest guys to be in the ring with in Will Ospreay, one of the best going today. So he was in there probably with one of the safest people to do this with. I loved before the match started, they showed old New Japan footage from years ago for the last time they faced one another, which I think was like 7 years or something like
7.
that. Yeah.
That's right.
So I love that. And the announcer saying, Ospreay is not the same guy he was 7 years ago. That's not, he's evolved as a performer. It was hard hitting, which is what you expect from these two. I think one of the things AEW does most weeks pretty well is the opener. And I thought they did a nice job with this. Looking at it on paper, you kind of knew Ospreay's probably going over here. Ospreay's the new guy, the hot free agent, the one they're really going to push. So you kind of knew Ospreay was going over, but both guys looked strong in it, and that's one of the things that both guys are really good at. So overall, I really liked the match, even though the winner was predictable. The match itself was enjoyable, so I liked it.
Definitely. I totally agree with you on the winner being predictable, but I'm glad you said what you said there. Also, I have to add over on Instagram, King, is it King Pie Pierce? King Pie Pierce added, I'm Cameron Pierce. So now we're looking at 3 Pierces. We've got Pierce Kiernan. We got Cam Pierce.
Pierce universe. It's the Pierce universe.
It's the Pierce universe. And we also seriously appreciate you tuning in. Love it. Always do not hesitate to comment. I will read as many as I can throughout the show. No doubt about that. But Dryzzy, before we move on to our next topic, I got to ask you about the same kind of question, same thought process here. Because I thought this was a heck of an opening match. Safety issues aside, we talked about it a little bit pre-show. Your thoughts on that? And then also, here's the other question is, what's the direction for Shibata coming out of this? Because I think the direction for Ospreay is significantly more obvious. And do you have any thoughts on where Shibata goes from here?
I'll address the Shibata first. Shibata is currently on the Bryan Danielson dream match tour. Like a lot of the matches that he's been doing lately have just been the big what if matches. You got the Danielson Shibata match a couple of weeks ago. I think he's enjoying being able to wrestle because, as was referenced earlier, we almost lost him. So I don't think everything for him is more clear cut. It's just how does he feel today? Do I feel like going and wrestling? I want to go wrestle this really physical match with Bryan Danielson, or I want to go have a comedy match with. Well, I guess I wouldn't call it a comedy match, but I want to have put on a classic with Orange Cassidy, or I want to go and wrestle MJF, which I do hope happens one day. Shibata is in that sweet spot where he can do whatever right now. He's achieved greatness status, and he is just enjoying his life at this moment in time. Now, as for the Will Ospreay Shibata match, I don't think it fits the normal pocket that AEW opening matches normally do, but it still fit. It felt really good. The whole it was a little slow for me, but for what they were doing, it made sense. That's the one thing AEW does so well is they tell incredible stories in the ring, and when you have two people like Shibata and Ospreay, it's a classic. And when they put out the AEW Best of 2024 DVD compilation that they don't do anymore, you're getting this match on there. It is I want you to go out of your way to go watch it because there's just such an art to that style of wrestling. It's slow, it's methodical, but every move is intentional. There's no wasted movement or anything along those lines. So enjoyed the match tremendously. The Oz Cutter did not. I think it was an angle. I really think it's an angle. I didn't watch the original one. I did watch it back. I think it's the angle that makes it look worse than what it really is. And then you also got to think about how much of a professional the Shibata is. He looks good when he sells. He sells amazingly. So I think that might be what Ben may have saw in it. I don't know, but we do have to be very careful with our heroes like that. So that it was a good match. It was a great match, and the double bow at the end, the perfect way to end it.
You're on mute.
I have muted Clark.
I think you summed that up literally perfectly. The way that I'm looking at it is, look, if Shibata is cleared and he's ready to go out there and do stuff and trusts Will Ospreay, he should be allowed to do those type of moves because he's that talented. Does the fear still exist? I mean, you could almost say the same thing about Danielson, Edge, Saraya. You can say it about a lot of Big E if he returns. It's difficult to quantify just the danger at hand.
It's not ballet, but I think the difference with Shibata is the dude almost died. Like the other ones,
Right.
they didn't. It wasn't that.
So here's an interesting thing, though, is so I did a lot of research on this the last 2 days, and he had a traumatic brain injury from a headbutt that was delivered.
Yep.
There was a standing headbutt that he delivered, actually, right? It wasn't
Delivered to him. Yeah.
Right? He delivered the headbutt. Brain hemorrhaging is something that is you absolutely have to take the most serious of almost anything.
Yes.
The surgery is what caused nerve damage that caused him to have to reroute his own nervous system in rehab. The risk of becoming paralyzed, though, is actually different with a brain injury, the way that he had, similar to what Bryan Danielson actually had on his own brain scans, than a neck injury like an Edge or a Saraya. He has a healthy neck. He has a healthy upper body. His shoulders are in shape enough to take a bump like that. Now, blunt force trauma to the head? Absolutely not. But I didn't see anything that looked like egregious blunt force trauma. And remember, we're working with Will Ospreay. Even the hidden blade.
It looked super safe. It like he, from the moment where he actually sits up, it all just feels like a pocket, and he's laid down carefully, pillow behind, blanket. He put him to night. Right. It looked super safe.
Ospreay's one of the safest ones to be in the ring with, so it makes sense.
And so that's where I will give I'll give more of a leash to, because for a guy that bowed at the end of the match to Will Ospreay, that did not look like a guy who had liberties taken on him. They didn't do anything that he didn't agree to, right? And we can, not to be that guy, but as wrestling fans, we can understand that. Pierce, our good friend of the show, added Shibata is his favorite wrestler ever. This run is just letting him do his thing and being allowed to wrestle, and I don't think us fans can diss it. It's just great seeing him wrestle weekly. See, I agree. I am completely on the same page there. It should be his choice and his choice alone. And if he's medically cleared, that's got to be the deal. It is a difficult situation anytime you have a brain or a spine injury, right? And we're splitting hairs there on which one's more like that's not the conversation that we're having, right? Like, but at the same time, I didn't see anything in that match that put him at a risk that I was particularly over the top nervous about, without there being like a complete botch. You know what I mean? Now, with that though, we've got plenty of stuff to talk about, and let's talk about maybe a bit of a spot fest, but a tag team match in the tag team tournament. We talked about it a little pre-show. Bucks seem to be on their way to those finals. I have never understood the vest with no jacket look if you're gonna wear suits, but I do. Respect and love it on the Bucks.
It fits. it fits.
They turned and looked at Christian Cage. We're like, sleeveless turtleneck, hold my beer. Wait till you see these outfits. It fits perfect. I love it. I was excited about the match. I want more for Private Party, but this wasn't about that. The Bucks clearly go over. That finish was funky though. Funky. That was We Want the Funk. So Anthony, I got to ask you about the match, the tournament, all of it, man. Talk to me.
All right. I am going to make this slightly quick because I have a package waiting for me, but it's fine with this. As I'm watching it on my ring, this tournament is pretty predictable that it's the Bucks. Private Party is in a long line of people that somehow they found in catering because they never use them, and then they pull them out when they need somebody to lose. It's a shame because I think Private Party is a great team. They had a lot of momentum when they were first in at the beginning of AEW, and then they lost their spark. They were Matt Hardy lackeys, which really didn't do anything for them. An injury prevented one of them to compete, and you knew they were jobbing to the Bucks. It was a nice spot fest, horrible finish, but it's very predictable. This is the Bucks. It's and that's a shame. Like, this should be a mystery. Who's gonna win? It's predictable. The Bucks are at least going to the finals if they're not winning the thing. And it's a shame when you have a tournament and the finish is predictable. It hurts the overall tournament as a whole, because why should I, as an audience member, care if I know what the finish is going to be? So that's the problem with this.
I do hear a bit of that 100% on the telegraphed, right? Oh, so go get that thing off your
All right, I'll be right back.
Me and Dryzzy will hold it down for it right now.
I want to go get it off your porch, honestly, if you want me to.
Drizz, let's talk about it. Check out that sweet WWE title in the background for Anthony.
Let me get my ski mask ready.
So no, but Drizz, let's talk about this. We got some comments here too that are great. Anthony Manzano asked, he's a fan of, or didn't ask, but he's a fan of Nick and Matt Jackson, but they're not as great of a tag team. I think they're not as great of tag team wrestlers as people make them out to be. They're good, but they're not as great as people make them out to be. I don't know what just happened with Anthony's microphone there, but that was... Something's going on with your mic. Yeah, just we'll figure it out.
Okay.
So anyway,
Bray Wyatt came
sorry
back.
about that, guys. We were just talking about, basically we were talking
about the Bucks and why are they. Let's talk about that ending. So I watched it. I tried to get a little bit of a rewatch to see what happened. They held him, and I don't know what banana peel Nick Jackson slipped on, but his knee went back and he completely fell and delivered his knee a whole 2 seconds later than Matt did. I don't know what the deal was with it. It was an absolute ridiculous ending, and I feel like the setup to it also was there was a miss somewhere. I don't know, but it happens in wrestling. Not everything is perfectly timed. The Bucks, most of the time, you very rarely ever see the Bucks take these moments where they have slip-ups like this. And it's on live TV, so everybody's going to make a bigger deal about it. For the most part, the match itself was not bad. It was more story-based due to the fact the Bucks are so overly heel right now. So it is. It is what it is.
It is what it is. We're at where we're at. Anthony,
am I back?
Ricciardi is back, and no audio overlay, so that's huge.
Okay, so we're good.
You're totally back. We're so back. We're in the comment section once again. Anthony Manzano asked me what my thoughts are on the Shibata comment. Dude, You missed it by 2 minutes.
Yeah, you're like a whole
The first
couple of minutes
15
off.
minutes of the show, we literally fully covered this. The net of it is, my personal opinion is, if he's medically cleared and he wants to continue wrestling and doing what he wants to do and trusts the opponent in the ring, I think it's Shibata's choice and no one else's
Trusted
for what
Shibata.
he's able to do, because nobody knows their own body better than themselves.
Mhm.
That no matter what, and like, that is no knock on doctors. I've needed them myself. A lot of people, like, at times, doctors are key. They're the best. We love them. We need them. But Shibata was told he'd never wrestle again, and then he did. And so I have a hard time splitting hairs on that, right? Tiger Woods, after they took half his leg out, was told he'd never golf again, then he did. I understand those are two different things, but at the same time, right, it happens a lot in sports when it comes to injuries, when it comes to brain trauma, when it comes to that kind of stuff. Does it have to be taken seriously? Absolutely. But it is on the performer themselves in some ways. If you're medically cleared, you should be allowed to do what everyone else is without criticism. I actually think it's impressive that he's capable of even pushing the line. And the last thing I would want is for Shibata to read or hear about somebody talking about he shouldn't be doing this when he's completely comfortable and healthy, because that's completely unfair to the guy as a performer and as a professional wrestler. That would be the last thing I would say about that subject. With that, though, speaking of subjects, let's talk about another one. Let's talk about, how often are you like, I want to see what Wrestling Republic's been up to lately. And then you, whatever, maybe you Google it, maybe you end up on Instagram, maybe you're over on Facebook, maybe you're on x.com, Twitter, the Bird app, maybe you're on Twitch. It really doesn't matter, though. Next Level. We've partnered with, probably heard me talk about this a number of times, but that's neither here nor there because it's important. Check it out. All in one place. Real easy. Oversimplified in a good way. Go to nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic. All of our content, all platforms, same location. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Even me?
Even you, Dryzzy, anybody, Next Level. Okay, I'm sorry, that's too funny. Let's talk about Sky Blue, though. One of my faves. We got a fatal 4-way in the women's division that's been overly criticized. I've gone to bat for numerous times. It's getting good again. We got 4 absolute blue chippers. Sky Blue, Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, and Anna Jay, who we forget about. The physicality in this match for a 4-way, off the charts. And then I've been saying it for so long. Willow. That power bomb, that move set, that charisma. Strap the rocket ship to Willow's back. She is that over and that good. I love Willow Nightingale. Dryzzy, I got to ask you about the match. We watched it this afternoon. Dude.
You know how I feel about Willow. She is my heart. She makes my heart beat. That is my absolute fave. This match, it was like a perfect puzzle piece. The whole puzzle just fit. It all worked. Anna Jay has tremendously been built over the last few years. A little stagnant as it is, but she's in the perfect spot in the I almost got the NXT title. I'm sorry, I speak a lot of NXT most of the time. I don't get to talk a lot of AEW, but
It's all
she's
good.
normally in the TBS title picture, and this was the perfect showcase for her. I feel like everybody got a chance to really showcase what they could do. Anna Jay had her moments, Sky Blue had her moments, Chris Statlander the bulk of the moments because she's just impressive whenever she steps in the ring, and Willow Nightingale's presence as a babyface is just perfect. She knows the right times. It's like that smile just fits. You can't. How do you hate her? Whenever they decide to make her a heel, I do not understand how they're gonna make that happen because she's just such a bubbly personality. You want to root for her, and in this match, you wanted to root for her. Even wrestling against her friend and tag team partner, and Chris Statlander, it was a great offensive, just everything, just great. I honestly love the way that the TBS title is booked over the way the women's title, and it seems to be like a going trend in AEW. The world titles seem to be these. I don't know. It's like they kind of sit in a purgatory sometimes, depending
Yes.
on what's going on. But the TBS title, the TNT title, the Continental title, the international title, they all get put in these good spaces with great contenders, and that's the exact same thing that's happening. TBS Willow winning the match, you saw it coming. It's kind of a thing that, like Anthony said, you saw it coming. A lot of the matches on Dynasty, you kind of know where they're going. I can't wait for the match because as much as I would love to see Willow win the TBS title, I just don't think it's time for Julia to lose it.
I totally agree on that. I don't think it's time for Julia to lose it, but it's hard to deny Willow. I mean, we've got over on Instagram, Tink22_54, good friend of the show with good match. I'm glad Anna Jay is back on TV. Couldn't agree with that more. And then he said, Willow hopefully is a future TBS champ. I think it's time to strike while the iron's hot. Finally.
My only concern with this is if they do pull the trigger on Willow, are they just going to have her drop it to Monet? Like, I would hate to see that happen.
See,
that's the exact reason why I just don't think this is the time for Julia to lose it.
I would personally, continuing the feud, I'd have Monet cost Willow. You keep the belt on Jay, you build the feud with those two.
See, I see where you're coming from for sure. But I gotta admit, I think Willow has deserved a title around her waist for a long time.
You're not wrong.
She deserves it, but I don't want her as a transitional champion just to give it to the pricey new free agent.
But it's also one of those things where, like, if you don't like Willow Nightingale, you're trying not to like her. Like, there is, like, she is the dictionary definition of a babyface.
No, I agree.
Male, female, doesn't matter which company, which part of the, right? Like, if you don't like Willow Nightingale, you're trying not to. I think the move is Willow TNT, Monet world title.
But they're not teasing that.
They aren't yet. And as we all know, these things do take time. They aren't yet, but I do personally totally believe that the move is to have Mercedes Moné make that world title in a way that Jade Cargill made that TBS title, plus a little more ring experience, plus a little bit more of razzle dazzle, all of that. But that is if I'm holding the pencil and I'm writing it down, and I'm not talking about one of those, number 2 pencils with erasers. I'm talking about one of the mechanical ones where the eraser doesn't really work. So you have to, it's basically like using a pen. But I would pencil in Monet world title, Willow TBS, and work from there, because you're looking at just 2 wrestlers that have proven that they're stars in different ways.
And honestly, if they play this right, they could have. They don't have to go right away, Monet Willow. They can build this up for the point where Monet is the women's champion, and let Willow chase her.
Totally.
Let her be. Let Monet be the big evil CEO,
She,
and let Willow chase. You have honestly, if you're building a women's division, these are the two women you want at the center of your main event.
I gotta be honest, listening to Monet on commentary, I'm going, how is she a face? Because the comments she's making sound like a heel. And that's where I think she should be anyway, because I think she's a natural heel. She's not believable as a babyface because there's so many stories out there of her not being that nice of a person. And you're like, lean into it. You don't have to be a face just to be a face.
Right.
Be your natural heel. If you are a, you know what, play it. That's your strength. Go with it. And Willow's the complete opposite. She's beloved because she's so likable, like Bailey buddies and all that other stuff. You know,
Willow has like. Here's the difference, though, is because I love Bailey. You know, I'm a diehard Bailey.
No, but fan. I mean, like early NXT Bailey with that was hugging.
I don't want to open a can of worms.
We're already there.
Willow somehow captured it in a way that feels slightly less corny.
Yes. You're absolutely correct.
Right? Like it feels genuine in relation to. I think Bailey's uber talented. And like one of the best. I go to bat for Bailey all the time. But I don't know that we saw that till her heel work.
Listen.
In the way like the believability factor on Willow Nightingale is off the charts. And that's so hard to do for a baby face.
Yeah. Listen, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, but like when Willow comes out with the music, I don't know why this reminds me of this. It reminds me of No Way Jose, like the excitement type deal. Like, I don't mean that. I don't mean that in
some way. No, I know it's true. Like the way
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, but that just shows the connection that she has.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But that's what it reminds me of.
But then she's got that, and then she'll dress up in Dudley Boy's gear, tag with Ruby Soho and power bomb you off the side of the stage. It's a different animal. We got a ton of comments about all this stuff. We've got Tink 2254 actually added earlier when we were in the middle of that discussion. Don't y'all think that Monet will go after Tony? That was kind of what I was saying, my friend. Like, yes. He also added that we know that Monet can be a heel for sure. And then he said, love me some Bailey, but Willow is the cat's meow. I am with you there 100%. We've also got Soul has had a few adult sodas this evening.
Save you one, but
he said, Anthony, that's a lovely title there. It'd be a shame if I cashed in on it.
So just so you know that I would drop you just as quick as Roman dropped Austin Theory when he tried to cash in.
Classic.
Try.
We got David Modge in the comments too. Speaking of friends of the show, with Willow's a textbook babyface, and then Money Monet gonna be a good champ, dude. You just got my wheels spinning. I'm a big fan of the whole Money Mayweather gimmick and run because I'm a boxing guy. Money Monet is Money Monet could be pretty darn good, like the unbeatable agile force, the defensive fighter.
It's coming.
I love it.
It's coming.
There's Money some Monet. Parallels there. Money Monet.
She's gonna dance and money's gonna fall. It's like
yes,
let's do it. Yes,
I'm all in on Money Monet. Like that is a difficult one to deny how funny that is to me. There. Let's quickly, speaking of other topics that we have to talk about, Hookamania has obviously been running wild for a while. I've been eating my chips. I've been saying my prayers.
I would have took this.
Hookamania, though, as the leader of the Hookamaniacs, I'm pretty confident that it's going to continue to run wild. But this is interesting. Potential pairing with Chris Jericho. We all know how successful and great Chris Jericho has been as a professional wrestler. We all know Jericho can talk, and advice-wise, he's great. Is the Hookster the protege where he finally gets it right, Anthony? Or no? I don't think it matters. I think the Hookster's great anyway.
Okay, I don't have a package this time, but I'm going to make this one quick anyway because this is easily shovable. Quite frankly, Jericho is a mentor in AEW, has not a great track record. How well is it? Sammy Guevara has been so far with him the entire time through every stable and is not more over. If anything, he's less. If anything, Hook should run. Jericho will not help him. Jericho has gotten no one over in AEW. He has gotten literally no one more over. So quite frankly, Hook's better off having Taz as his manager than he does either as a team or against Jericho. Jericho will not help Hook. He's the kiss of death for any young talent that wants to get over in this business. I don't know what it is, but Jericho's not doing it. It's Sammy Guevara. The only, honestly, this is a guy that had a run, had TNT titles against, Cody, and was even.
I hear you on Sammy, but Anthony.
No,
kiss of death. I hear you too. Wait a minute. But what about Max?
He didn't get him more over. Max got Max over. It wasn't Jericho. It was Max on the mic.
Immediately following his run with Jericho, he was pushed to the moon.
Okay.
Same can be said for Orange Cassidy.
Listen.
Same can be said for Orange Cassidy.
Okay.
Both.
MJF had a better run against Punk, and what got Orange Cassidy over was that title. That Intercontinental,
whatever.
He was over before that. He was over before
way over before that.
But if you want to say got him over as more respected, it was that title reign more than anything else.
I'm gonna push back just a little bit because what was the exact match after the Jericho feud that Orange Cassidy had?
Listen, that
it was the double or nothing triple threat match. Pac, Cody, him.
Yeah,
that was the match.
That Mimosa thing didn't get OC over.
Whoa. That sold a lot of champagne bottles, though.
There's a lot of bubbly.
Does that get Orange over?
Continued to spell out. Well, if you added the orange juice to it, then it was.
Anthony, I'm with you 100%, but I can't 100% say that Jericho didn't get anybody over. It has not been just a complete and utter.
Yeah,
but he has a very bad track record.
He has a bad track record as of late.
That's the point.
I'm with you that far of it because the whole for everything from these last few months period have just his greatest aspect has been being able to know when to leave, and he's not taking the hints right now. It's time for him to take some leads right now.
That won't get off the stage.
The way I would put it is like if we're putting it into baseball terms, he went from being like probably you'd hope for Tony Gwynn to like maybe like a 265 hitter that's cranking dingers every now and again, but not necessarily at the rate you would love. But I do hear where you're coming from there, Anthony. Also, we have Melon Playground with my man Dryzzy. And Jericho is the man. Monster shout out Melon Playground. No doubt about that. Infurious One asked us how we feel about the whole landscape of wrestling. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I feel really good about it.
This is the best time that I think since the big boom of the Attitude Era, the Big Three. I think this is the closest we've ever gotten to that pop culture type thing that we experienced.
For sure. We're getting close to late 90s territory. Not there, but close.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the tag match. Another tag match. We've got the OC and Trent billed as the best friends, which I was under the impression that Chucky T from Louisville, Kentucky, no less,
the Kentucky gentleman,
was a part of. I thought he was the second half when it comes to that best friends billing. We've got OC filling in. I got to ask you, Drizzy, they advance. Steal one a little bit, slightly steal one here. No chance they're going to the finals, though. What happens against the Bucks next week?
Oh, so here's another aspect. I'm pretty positive about AEW most of the time, but there are just some travesties in AEW that just baffle me. I'm befuddled when I think about these things. How has Best Friends been there since day one and never been tag champs? No, none of the aspects of Best Friend have been the major champion. You can try to put Chris Statlander as the TBS champion in there. It's not the world title though. Orange Cassidy as the international champion. It's not the world title though. Even though his reign was more important than the world title. But the Best Friends, I don't know what it is, but they love putting them in that, I like to call it the Bray Wyatt position. You're good enough to be in the main event, but they just won't give you those big wins. And they deserve it. They have been fighters. They have done everything that has been asked. I think they've even gotten a 5-star Meltzer rating. You know how hard it is to get one of those? It's almost impossible. The Bucks almost have copyrights on them.
Yeah.
This match, I thought it was going to be a little bit more competitive than what it was, but the Undisputed Kingdom suffer from what I like to call undisputed era syndrome, where you get more than one of them in one place and they all just become hapless and can't do anything together at all, in any form or aspect at all. I don't know what it is. It's contagious. But you saw it coming a mile away, though.
It's so true. And it's bizarre to me because, and Tink 2254 agreed. He said Best Friends have been so over, not being champs is a travesty. I think the best tag team match I've actually ever seen in AEW, and this is crazy because it was fanless, was Proud and Powerful in the street fight against the Best Friends.
Yes.
Like, say what you will about Bucks and FTR. I was at Lucha Bros cage match with the Bucks. That was insane with the thumbtack Air Jordan thrown over the you can name 100 whatever the Uncle Dave Sheldon the other Uncle Dave, I guess, gave that one 6 stars. What was it? Hangman and Kenny against the Bucks and whatnot. I still go back to that. That's the one. That match was unbelievable. And the fact that the two teams are where they are today, and then you throw in what the rest of the division used to look like at the time. You got Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus, now Killswitch, right? Like it's funky what's happened with the tag team division. I do actually think that the Bucks going on this type of run is the most beneficial thing possible. It's absolutely necessary. Like, they need to re-inject life into the tag division. It's one of the best things that they've had since AEW started. And over the last few years, a lot of teams that you projected success for it's not even just not there.
Successful. They're not successful. They're not there.
Yeah. It's they're either not there or they're not successful. And we need to figure out a way to get back to kind of that, because that was one of the most tantalizing things about AEW was that tag division when they started. But let's talk about our last topic before we get to Throwback Thursday. As promised, Swerve Strickland versus Takeshita. This was Ken Griffey Jr. slugfest. It was an absolute banger. I loved it. I loved the cave-in version of the stomp. I really, really liked the big pressure. Pump handle, basically like a turnover pile driver. I dig that move for a finish. Anthony, I gotta ask you, dude, how soon can we get this world title on Swerve?
I think Swerve is the ultimate direction they're going. Whether it's a dynasty, who knows? They knowing them, they might stretch this out to Double or Nothing. I don't know. This match as a whole, it a lot like the opener. You knew who was going to win it, but it was a solid match, and I think that's it. Both guys looked strong, but you knew Swerve was winning this. There was no suspense. No one expected Swerve to eat the L on this one. So it was what it was. I thought it was a good match, but like the opener, you knew who was winning.
Yeah, the telegraphed part of the booking there. I will say, Takeshita got me for a second. The effort, he's so good. For a second, I flipped where I'm like, maybe they're gonna do it. And that was enough for me to be like entertained throughout. But I do hear where you're coming from on like logically speaking on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Swerve makes the most sense to go over. Driz, what were your thoughts on the match? Obviously, we watched the end together too. That finish with that Swerve stomp, and then it's weird that he did kick out of the Swerve stomp though. To me, that's where I was a little like, but to put over big pressure as the ultimate finish.
A very, very, very good match. Swerve can do no wrong in the ring at this point. At this point in time, and Takeshita, it is absolutely just amazing how good he is. And I don't think that this is going to be one of those things that we're going to have to look back later and really enjoy it, because I don't think he gets enough love right now for the things that he does do in the ring. His timing is impeccable. The way he sold those last two stomps are just amazing. The one off the top, yes, it just seemed like it was lighter, but it's when he did the standing one that it felt, no, this is it. And the big pressure as the finisher, it's getting better by the moment. They're putting together a championship run, and I'm ready for it.
Same. It's time. It's Swerve's time. It's about. I think that the rivalry of the year in AEW needs to be Swerve and MJF. I think that's what has to happen. It's a little bit like you can't keep Rock and Austin apart despite the fact that they're both so over. And you have to figure that out. I'm not saying it's the exact same, but that is the direction for All In, All Out. That is exactly where I'm booking this. It needs to be Maxwell Jacob Friedman and Swerve Strickland, because you have two absolute world beaters when it comes to those two on the roster at the same time over the world title. Whatever happens on the mic, pick and choose. Heel, baby face, it doesn't matter.
Just let it happen.
just make it. Yes, I was gonna say, I'm like, just make it happen, not just let it, make it happen. It has to. That is exactly where this needs to go. Now, what day is it again?
We're going rich.
Back Thursday.
I gotta do my Nick Aldis. We're going retro.
Let's throw it back. Let's talk about it. And this is such a fun topic for Throwback. It's Mania season. I know we've been talking AEW all day long here, but we're going to talk a little bit old school WWE. In fact, WWF at the time. And I'm not talking about the World Wildlife Fund. This is WrestleMania 15 from Philadelphia. And the good news is we've got a guy in the building today. Well, we're not all in the same building, but in a building.
In an imaginary building.
That attended it, not just live, but in person. Anthony Ricciardi, dude. Mania 15. Let's talk about your childhood memories first. Then let's break down the whole show.
Okay. The first thing I want to bring up before I get to this, about like this time a year ago, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't I Edge in 2K and I speared you and threw you out the Rumble with Edge? If I'm not mistaken, right around this time, just before we went to the Angels game. But 25 years ago, literally today, WrestleMania 15 took place. From my childhood memory of this, I was a fan for just about a year. And I may have told this story before on air. I know I've told Clark this story before. But I remember getting a thing in the mail from WWF because I was a subscription to WWF magazine, and it gave me an opportunity to buy tickets. And I begged my dad, I want to go to WrestleMania. I want to go to WrestleMania. And my dad mailed in the check for the tickets, and every day I was badgering him. Did they cash the check? Did they cash the check? And I would go back to school like the next at lunchtime or whatever. I remember going back. My dad called me. I was home for lunch, and he goes, "They cashed the check." And I remember bragging to the other kids, going, "I'm going to Mania." But the Mania itself, when you look back on it, as back then when I saw it, I thought it was the greatest thing ever. It was Mania. Hindsight, looking back on it, not the best Mania at all. It's very symbolic of the Attitude Era. It's the last Russo booked Mania before he would jump to WCW. So there are a lot of things thrown in there. It's the Brawl for All, Bart Gunn against professional Butterbean, which I'm sure Clark will get into that. But like there were a lot of weird things. The Road Dogg was the Intercontinental Champion, defending in a 4-way. Billy Gunn's the Hardcore Champion and opens the show against Al Snow and Hardcore Holly. And of course, they pull out a hockey stick. It's the opener of the show, and the crowd chants "Let's go Flyers" because it's a Philadelphia crowd, and that's the building the Flyers play in. But what is most, very Russo soap opera booking. China turns on Kane and is back with Triple H. Oh, DX is back together. And then like 2 matches later, it's Triple H and China turning on X-Pac and the Outlaws and joining the corporation, which is, again, Russo booking. Vince McMahon gets punched out by the Big Show. He gets punched out by Mick Foley. The main event, he gets beat up again by Austin. The main event, and the Big Boss Man gets hung in a Hell in a Cell match. Again, Attitude Era.
That one aged delightfully.
Yeah, the Brood debuted in that. They're the ones that pulled down the noose for Taker to do it. But the highlight in all legitimacy is the main event. It's the first time The Rock has main evented a WrestleMania. And it's even more wild that I watched that live 25 years ago, and in 9 days, I'm going to see The Rock main event WrestleMania one more time, which is just wild to me. But
that is mind-numbing.
But, Austin versus Rock, they've done it 3 times. 17's the one that gets the most buzz about it. Personally, I don't like 17 because I think the finish ruined the whole thing. I think 15 is criminally underrated. I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily say it's better than 19 because it's been a while since I've seen 19, but I believe it's better than 17's.
19's mid-card.
Yes, it's not the main event. And was Austin's last match until he faced Owens. But one of the things that's famous for this match, and I didn't even realize it at the time until I rewatched it, Rock came out first, and he was the champion at the time. And they brought in JR, who was out with cerebral palsy, or Bell's palsy rather. And and apparently Austin and Rock pushed for his return because they wanted him to call the match. One of the other things that's famous is that Austin comes out not in his trademark leather vest, instead a t-shirt. Now, I don't remember if he said the vest wasn't done in time or the airline lost it. I don't remember which scenario, but I remember he said he was mad because he wanted to come out with his trademark look. But it is one of the best matches. Rock oversells, the stunner as he always does, better than anybody else. And it's as a whole, it encapsulates the Attitude Era. I think 14 is probably the better one of that Attitude Era, but 15 always holds a special place because I was there with my dad.
Yes.
And Austin Rock is always classic.
100%, dude. And I'm so glad you broke that down too. We got a bunch of great comments. Team 2254 added, totally forgot about that happening to Boss Man. That cracked me up. Manzano added, it's his favorite WrestleMania commercial. I like that, but I would add 17. David Modge added, that's awesome. Anthony Manzano asked, is 15 better than 16? So I went to 16 in Anaheim, right?
Mhm.
That's WrestleMania 2000. If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Yes,
And,
that is the
yeah,
triangle ladder
yeah.
match.
The answer is definitively, as the
No,
guy that
no.
attended the West Coast one, definitively 16 is way worse than 15. 16 was not it at all.
The difference is 15 had one good match, 16 had two good matches, maybe
It's
that weren't
like-
the main. That were not the main event.
The main
both
event was
good.
that 4-corner disaster.
Yeah,
And
that was
McMahon in
not.
every corner.
That's
Yeah,
what
that's what I wanted to watch from Mania. A McMahon in every corner.
I gotta ask you, Driz, though, your memories of 15. in Philly.
15. The main event was the big seller for everybody on for me on that one at least. But what I was more in, because at the time I was a huge D'Lo Brown fan. It was they had the battle royale earlier in the match, and the final two men got to wrestle for the tag titles, and I believe that they won the titles. And I enjoyed the aspect of the unpredictability of Test and D'Lo Brown winning a battle royale, and it's just something that it always stood out to me because it was unique. It's one of Russo's better ideas. Because if you say you have a tag team just literally run through the whole roster, you need to shake it up a little bit. Have a battle royale. Last two guys get a title shot.
Yeah, they didn't win the titles. Owen and Jeff retained.
Yeah,
they did retain.
I mean, it's one of the 15 and 16, and this isn't even about 16. This is about 15.
Yeah.
But they're two of the funkiest manias, but they're so much fun to watch nostalgia-wise because you're just like,
they're so attitude era. They're just
yeah.
You know what's funny? I completely forgot that Sean used to do this because Sean came out because Vince wanted to book himself as the guest referee. And Sean came out, and I forgot that he always referred to him as Vin Man. Until I rewatched it, I forgot about that.
Ooh, a lot of people, Anthony Manzano with a great comment here. A lot of people say 13 was worse than 15. Do you guys agree? I would call it a wash. I think there are
13,
two matches
13.
There's one from each that matter the most in the lexicon of pro wrestling. The irony is both involve Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Clark, do you want to cover the Brawl for All thing? Because I know that you have
I do. We're running low on time, but I have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Nobody, as a boxing fan, a diehard boxing fan, huge fan of the pugilistic arts, nobody has ever been more egregiously just messed around than Bart Gunn was having to fight Butterbean in gloves after the Brawl for All. This is ridiculous.
He was punished.
Butterbean was a gigantic heavyweight boxer, and I understand the Butterbean name is funny. If you didn't live during that era, you didn't see it. It is funny. It's humorous. Butterbean hit like a Mack truck and had the chin that was crazy. There were more agile and bigger and more talented heavyweight boxers that could move around and potentially defeat Butterbean. To throw him in there with a guy that's a pro wrestler that has a real slick left hook is so unfair and so not right. I mean, we talked about safety earlier on this show. There's almost nothing unsafe than exposing Bart Gunn to an overhand right on live television.
It was vindictive too, because the Brawl for All tournament was designed, even though it was a shoot, it was supposed to be Dr. Death Steve Williams. He was the one supposed to win it.
To me, all that says is this is literally timing wise at the outset of the UFC. And to me, all it says is that Vince Russo got into the UFC and was like, we can do something like that. And so then he watched Dr. Death and was like, whoa, he was a great collegiate wrestler. I'm sure he can fight. He's going to win. And no, everyone thought Bradshaw could slug too, and Bradshaw can slug.
But he got put out too.
He got put out too. But to put a guy in there unsafe, now we are running low on time.
Yep.
We could talk about this for days. Ting 2254 added, I hope Bart got a good payday for that. Yikes. I
did.
do
Last
too,
one.
but I unfortunately highly doubt
Oh.
that one. With that,
Find
though,
out next time.
that does bring us to the end of the show. We thank everybody so much on behalf of Wrestling Republic for tuning in, watching us every day. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. Keep tuning in. We'll keep bringing great content as much as we can. Dryzzy, Anthony, thank you also so much for being my co-host today. Everybody have an awesome Thursday. We'll talk to everybody soon.